We are back to the podcast, Mr. John Browning. You know what? You've eliminated your virtual background. Now I actually can see what's going on behind you. That's not
I
really a
know
good
it's.
reference if you're dealing with audio only here. But what is going on behind you? You have a lot of books back there. I can see.
I've got a lot of books. I've got I've got my Harley stuff. I've got my Ford Mustang toy cars because I never did grow up, and tons of really boring to most people books. That's
Well,
right.
we may have talked about this in past episodes. By the way, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Doug Sandler. I am from Turnkey Productions, and John Browning is the true host of the show. Where he's still to a certain degree, whatever I could call it, has the podcast training wheels on, but he really doesn't because he does this almost. You do this every day, don't you? Do something every day on YouTube?
I do. Yeah, I do a daily podcast as well, like a little 5 to 10 minute. Hey, this
Yeah.
is what's going on. What you need to worry about or don't need to worry about in the market
he
today.
he is a prolific YouTuber, and he's probably right behind Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift, and all of the cat videos that are out there. So take a moment and check out his YouTube channel. Where can they check you out on YouTube? We never promote your YouTube channel. Where can we
I
promote?
know it's a John Browning videos, and you can also find it by searching "Building Your Life with John Browning" on YouTube. You can find it those two different ways. It's a good way to find, and it's also in the show notes down below.
All
There's
right,
a link
so
to it, I
it,
think.
all right, that's cool. So if you want to take a moment and do that, it'll be in the show notes. Just click over to the show notes to check that out. If you're already on the YouTube channel, you get to see his bookcase behind him right now. Also, so you struck upon two subjects that are very near and dear to me, and it wasn't financial, but they were. You mentioned Ford Mustang and Harley. Now I know we've talked about this briefly, but I've owned two Harleys in my day: a 2002 Wide Glide Dynaglide, and I had a 2015 Road Glide, which was the Shark Nose amazing
I
cruiser.
love those.
But
Yeah.
California, it was so challenging to ride it. So I gave that up and replaced it with a 65 Mustang instead. So you mentioned a couple of things in my world that I definitely perked my ears up. So what's your passion when it comes to machines?
Yeah, so I've got a Harley Heritage Classic that I've had just forever. I just won't let go of it.
Soft bagger with the tassels on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's got the leather bags. It's a bagger. Yeah, and I love riding that. Although it is challenging in the South Florida traffic, but I like getting it out on the.
And heat too, because gosh, you can't get on the highway with that thing if you're going to just sit in traffic because 110 degrees. Harleys don't really love heat. They're not liquid cooled.
They are air cooled, and let me tell you, in the 100-degree South Florida heat, when you're sitting at that traffic light, your legs start getting pretty hot.
Yeah, I got it. All right, so you got the Harley. What year is your bagger?
2000 was it 2013? Yep.
2013. And then you mentioned the other love of my life, the passion that drives another podcast that I have, a Mustang. So what year is the ultimate Mustang for you?
1969 is my favorite. I'm a big Corvette and Stingray fan as well. I used to have a Z06
Wow.
Corvette,
What year was that?
2009. Yeah, that was fun. I sold it when my son turned 16.
So you did him justice because he was just going to total the car anyway. So
That's
it's
right. And as a
probably
matter of fact, he did total the car that I bought to replace it. So
oh
yes.
my gosh. God, talk about an omen. I didn't even mean that. I don't wish any horror upon any parents like that. If you have a sports car in your family, just hide the keys. Just figure out how to keep them away from the kids because they
That's right.
managed to figure out how to total your cars. And fortunately, in John's case, he still has the six kids in his family, so everything's good.
Yes, that's right.
So
Some of
so
them
uh,
survive.
other than the 69 Mustang and the Corvette, so are you driving any of the old cars now, or do you have a Highlander like I have, a 2011 sitting on my
Yeah, pretty
driveway?
much. I've got a Buick. Yeah, that's the old man car for
What
sure.
happened
Although
to us? What happened?
eventually I might get another Corvette. Although by the time you can never justify a Corvette. Well, I was going to say justify a Corvette. You can never justify a Corvette. by the time I'm ready to buy a new toy, I'll probably be getting more practical. I really don't want to get down that low and get up from that low
Oh
again.
yeah, it is challenging. That's why I do love I have the 65 Mustang convertible, which is really good in Southern California where I live to have the convertible, but I also have a 67 F250 pickup truck,
There you go.
which sits nice and high, and it allows me to actually, when I work on the pickup truck, I can stand in the engine bay pretty much and work on it
Right.
because
Yeah.
there's
Plenty of
so
room to
much
work on.
room. There's so much room around the, it's not packed like those Corvettes. Gosh, they're packed with every, there's no computers in either one of my two classics, so I do love
Nice.
having them. Hmm.
Yeah.
So I
Computers.
know
Yeah.
our listening audience did not come to hear us talk about cars and motorcycles, but it is a fun conversation to have every once in a while, so you can hear a
Well,
little.
it's about building your best life if that's what you're into. I mean, it's I love old cars and not having the AI be part of it. I like the AI. It makes my life easier and all that kind of stuff, but and all the computers, but you can't work on them. You can't, it's really hard
True.
to modify them a little bit to have them do what you want and all that.
Very, very true. And so you touched upon the subject that I really want to get into today, which is a little bit of the famous car maker Elon Musk. He's getting more involved in AI every day. So talk to me about that subject because I know this is a very fascinating subject in today's day and age.
Yeah, if I would say Elon, his pay package, his political, we'll call them issues and everything else. He's probably the single most
Loved and hated.
loved and hated individual in America today. I don't think it's Donald Trump. I think it might be Elon. And it's funny. It's it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican. There's usually something you can find that will make you not like or really like Elon Musk.
But isn't that all like a part of his genius? I mean, I'm not defending Elon at all. God forbid he needs my help in
Yeah.
defending himself. But at the same time, isn't that what brings the genius out? He's created so much good, but at the same time, while creating the good, he's left somehow a wake of ugly behind him because of his controversial ways. How does that affect the market? Does it affect the market?
It actually does. I truly believe it does because when a guy like that, I mean, it's very difficult. You can try if you really don't like him. You can try and say he's not a genius, but that's really hard. He is clearly a genius level individual, and some of that, I mean, he has some Asperger's and things like that, and that makes him very high functioning, and also makes it very difficult for him to do what he does a lot of, which is communicate. And I think he does a pretty good job for having that challenge. I think he does a pretty decent job at communicating. I think the problem comes in where people today, in today's day and age, we're going to sound old now, right?
Yep.
They tend to take little sound bites and then they become reality for certain people, and we forget to dig a little deeper and find, well, what was the context behind that. And when you dig down into what Elon says and what he does, sometimes I wonder, I'm like, what in the world did he do? He just got rid of the division that makes all the chargers. Why in the world would he do that? I mean, he had created something that the US government did not want to acknowledge. Finally, they had to acknowledge. The big other automakers that were forced to kind of get into the EV space couldn't come up with anything better. They tried. So he has this massive market. Why would you get rid of those? Well, there's a reason for every single thing that Elon does.
Was he clearing his plate for more growth in a different section, or did he just not see that as a potential profit opportunity? Or I don't even know that the money even matters to him anymore. But the success matters to him. The win, I think, matters to him.
When the innovation, the challenge for the next thing absolutely matters to him. And I don't know exactly why he did that, but as soon as he did it, I wondered why in the world you would do that. My original thought was that he's got another company somewhere, or maybe he doesn't, but that he's gonna just offshoot that, because it was, to your point, distracting
Right.
him from
Right.
the next big thing. And And other things that he does, like, why in the world would he buy Twitter? Oh, he just wanted to have a political platform. I don't think that's it either. I think he wanted the data from
Yep.
Twitter.
Yep.
And yes, there were some political things in there too. He truly seems to believe in free speech, whether he likes it or doesn't like what you say. He wants to hear both and decide for himself, just, and he thinks that and I think so too. I love free speech. The problem is, I think a lot of folks just want their speech to be free.
They just want their
Right?
speech to be free. Exactly. Exactly.
So, I mean, that was part of it, but a bigger part, I think, was the ability to train his AI even faster and better because of the data that he gets from Twitter. And of course, people still think Tesla is a car company. The cars, in my opinion, are an afterthought. It's really, and is it a battery company? I don't even think that's it necessarily.
What is it? What is it?
I think it's an AI company. I think it's an artificial intelligence company
So
more
the
than anything
vehicle,
else.
literally the vehicle to bring AI to the world is the Tesla automobile. So that's what you're saying. His practical application of bringing AI out in other than a computer form is bringing it out in car form, so I can have all these self-driving cars control the commerce, control the world.
Yeah, essentially, yes. I don't know that he wants to have the control of the world thing, but he does seem to he wants to move society, the world, whatever, forward into this sort of new age of artificial intelligence. He's also admitted how dangerous it is, but the self-driving capabilities, he's so far ahead of any of his competitors that there's no catching him at this point in terms of that. And when you combine that with the AI and the new Grok system that he's developing with Twitter, and then you combine that with his Starlink and SpaceX, and then you combine that with the implants that he has very successfully implanted into certain animals and now into quadriplegic humans.
That's like a play on the what was it the movie Her? I can't remember that what was the movie that they had the no better I can't remember the name of it, but it was actually they implanted in a paralyzed guy the AI and then the guy's having
Yeah.
conversations with the guy that's inside him
Yeah. I
and they didn't
remember that movie. I
realize
can't think of the name of it.
can't think of the name of it either, but they were realizing that the guy that's inside the other guy was just like thought they didn't realize when they implanted this thing inside this guy's spine that they were actually going to have conversations back and forth. He's like, you mean you're talking, literally talking to this? And he's like, yes, I'm talking to this person right now.
You're
And
talking to the AI. You're telling the AI what you want it to do on the computer screen or on a robotic arm or whatever it
all
is. I
right, so
mean,
let's not talk science
exists
fiction.
today.
Let's not talk science fiction for just a quick second because I want to come back to the purpose of what this bringing up the subject was to begin with was that does a guy like Elon, by the words that he say, by the actions that he takes, by the companies he buys and sells, of course he's dictating what's going on in the market. How much control can one person have over what happens with the market? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Well, clearly he doesn't necessarily control what happens with the market, right? Because otherwise Tesla stock would have been doing much better this year, and it has not done that well. And again, that's just part of his holdings. All of the boring company where he's drilling and making tunnels that actually operate, and you can run Teslas back and forth and maglevs and everything. All that's all privately owned.
Mm,
SpaceX privately owned. Twitter privately owned. Those are the other things, and those don't necessarily have him be able to control the markets, but they certainly impact and influence other things. So if
hmm
you dig a little deeper and you understand the impact of even, say, some of his purchases, some of how he, to some extent, controls supply chains, right? Because he's got a huge need for nickel, and he's very open about that. Hey, mine more nickel, I'll buy it, and things like that. He's purchased, the right to buy, enormous amounts of lithium and things like that. All of that has an impact. He's now building a massive AI center that Dell and Supermicro are essentially assembling for him, and that's full of what? NVIDIA chips. So it's, all those purchases begin to impact different companies. Some of those companies might not be immediately apparent. The ones I just mentioned,
Right, right.
maybe more immediately apparent, but there's also a lot of smaller companies that he's kind of put on the map.
So when you see, and again, this is not advice. This is just opinion. This is just John sharing, and
That is
I'm
right.
certainly no financial guru by any stretch, but I'm always interested in this kind of conversation. When you see a guy like Elon Musk buying companies, selling companies, making moves, working with companies, is that a signal to buy, to sell, to hold? To what does that generally mean to you? Is there a direction that you can go when he's involved in something?
I think, again, I want to reiterate one more time, this is absolutely not investment advice. So if you have a very long-term view, and I think Elon and his companies have proved this time and time again, when he first gets into something, it's probably not a great time to invest. I mean, if you look at the very beginning of Tesla, it almost just by the
Yeah.
scrape of his teeth got by and managed to now be very, very successful. SpaceX was one final launch away from bankruptcy as well. Now it's doing very well and far, far ahead of any of its competitors like Boeing and Lockheed Martin and all the other folks that are trying to, NASA is trying to give them contracts to
Right.
launch their rockets just so they aren't completely dependent on SpaceX. So if you're a very, very long-term investor and can handle,
All
your
sorts of volatility.
all sorts of volatility, like 30, 40, 50, 70% declines, then sure. Yeah, maybe you take a flyer on some of this stuff. But also, I mean, clearly Elon has made some enemies, right? I mean, it's fairly clear that he has some enemies in very big places like the government who would like to see him fail and have given it a good old fashioned try.
Yeah.
And that affects the stock price of his company. So you got to be willing to withstand that. What I like more though is to dig a little deeper, find those companies and those folks that are supporting what he's doing, who supply the parts. It's kind of like the pick and shovel.
Right.
You
Right.
didn't necessarily want to be the guy going out and mining the gold during the gold rush, but boy, making the picks and the shovels for all the guys that didn't make it, it's
You were going to
great.
be a wealthy person if you owned the pick and shovel or the jean company, Levi Strauss,
Levi Strauss
1845,
is
right?
another great one.
If you're the
Yeah.
Levi Strausses of the day, and that's probably what Elon is. It's amazing, or Elon's suppliers are. It is amazing how we follow him with such awe and amazement. He definitely he creates the attention because he's controversial. I think that that's one of the things that I don't know that he does it or doesn't do it purposely. I just know that that's the kind of guy that he is.
Yeah. He just says what he thinks. And usually if you really listen to it and you listen to everything that he says, it's like, well, even if you disagree with it, you got to admit it makes a little bit of sense.
Well, it's kind of like listening to I believe it or not, I'm going to say this, probably with some dose of reality. He's like a little bit more of a crazy Steve Jobs. He's got a little bit, Steve had his thing and everybody thought he was a little out there, but he never got to the, Steve was a little earlier in the day than Elon. Elon's a little bit more free with his speech and Steve was a little bit more held back, but it is amazing to see a lot of the similarities between those two geniuses.
Yeah, and here's one other really interesting thing is there are things that Elon Musk is really, really bad at. He is really bad at predicting when something is going to happen. And he calls himself out on that. He says, yeah, I think we'll have it done by August or by 2020, whatever. And you know he's not going to hit it. But he calls it out, he admits it, and he says that the reason that he does that is because he believes in that, whatever the law is that says however much time you give yourself,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
everything else will expand to meet that longer time horizon. So
Yep.
he purposefully is bad at that, I guess.
All right. Well, this is very interesting subject matter. I don't know that we closed many doors on that. I think we opened up more doors
He
than we
opened
closed,
up
which
more.
but that's fine. It's a good time to think about. Like I personally love where we are with technology in the world. Yes, it's really scary to think about this AI thing and how much this could take over the world, and could robots be the people that we answer to in the future? Maybe. But I don't know. I'm more of a positive thinker. I'm not a doom and gloomer. I really do think that although there are shadows that are lurking in the distant future, I also see that there's a lot of angels and positives that could be happening, and the benefits far outweigh, in my mind, the negatives. Unless, of course, we decide to, what's it called, global nuclear destruction. What's it called when both sides know that they was
Mutual assured destruction.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's not go there. I don't have to have
Let's
my
not go
brain go there.
there. Yeah, I think I'm the same way. It's kind of like the good. I believe the good outweighs the bad. I believe in human ingenuity. And bottom line is, you and I are old enough that I still know how to read a paper map.
I love my paper maps. I think I actually still have one in my 2011 Highlander from way back when I was doing some traveling around the northwest stretch of the United States. I love my paper maps.
Yeah, I can still get around to those, and we should talk about that next podcast episode.
Okay,
Let's
what are we
talk
talking about?
about a little bit of that. Yeah,
Paper maps?
paper maps, paper like the doom and gloomers that think everything's. Well, what do we do? Let's think. Let's dig a little deeper on that subject.
All right, let's go back to off-grid housing and paper maps. I love it. Well, if you want to get more information about what John does and how he does it, certainly feel free to check the show notes. All the links there will be there for his website and how to you can get more information. Also, you can text the word life, that's LIFE, to 321-421-5213. And there'll be a bunch of instructions how to get more about John and what he does at Guardian Rock Wealth. John, thanks for being here on the show again today.
All right, we'll see you next week.